Hey guys, welcome back to the Stuff of Legend. My name is D'Lo and I've got another video for you guys. Today we're going to be talking about Star Wars The Mandalorian, the live action Star Wars TV series with a big movie budget that is killing it on the Disney streaming service. If you guys haven't seen that yet, I am going to warn you now, if you haven't already figured it out, this is going to include big time spoilers. And if you even read the title of this video, you've already got a touch of spoilers, but probably not more than you've seen on social media already. It has become a major internet meme. People are already aware of what you can already see on my screen, Baby Yoda. And I am going to give you guys 3 theories about this exact topic. So let me go ahead and cut over my screen. I wanted to show you guys some of this right here. Hey guys, welcome back to the Stuff of Legend. So let me show you guys what's going on here, all right? So I'm going to try to jet through these as quickly as I can while still making sense. So bear with me. I'm going to start with a very simple theory. Now, the first theory on my list, guys, is it's a race thing, okay? So for those of you who don't know, in Star Wars The Mandalorian, I'm only covering episodes 1 through 3 because that's all that is out right now as of the making of this video. All we have is the first 3 episodes, and so based on this, we know that from episode 1, the target, the bounty that the Mandalorian is sent to hunt down is a 50-year-old person with no gender known or attached, no name, only a last known whereabouts, and the age of this species, this person. And so the Mandalorian's okay, that's weird, but he does it anyway with just a tracking fob. No puck, no hollow puck to show what it looks like, nothing. Gets there, it's Baby Yoda. And why is this significant? 50 years gives approximately enough time for this baby to have aged appropriately since around the Phantom Menace, perhaps. That's about the right amount of time, possibly at the very latest, Revenge of the Sith. So like you calculate somewhere in that time frame, carry it over, and the pregnancy could have been happening during this time if pregnancy was on the table. So what we need to talk about is, if it's a race thing, it doesn't necessarily have to be related to Yoda, but I mentioned the timeline because that's going to involve 2 things. It's going to involve both of the first 2 theories that we're dealing with here. So cloning does not necessarily come into play just yet. I want to give you guys a tease about what we're going to talk about in just a minute. All 3 of these theories that I have, they kind of interweave a little bit. They follow the same paths, but bear with me. First thing, it's a race thing. What do we know about Yoda's race? Literally not even the name of the race. We know so little about Yoda's race. It's crazy. It's actually, we know so much about the character Yoda, except we know nothing about where he comes from, his home planet. We don't even know what his diet is, except for that it's disgusting. We don't know what most of the other members of his race look like. We only have 2 real depictions and then some artwork that was done in like comics and books and sketches. Not a lot other than just Yoda and Yaddle because they've been seen in live action movies. But we do know that they are inherently connected to the Force, and I can prove that right now. So let's go ahead and take a look at this. I think, first of all, first theory, which I think is the simplest and least fun theory, that this baby is not related to Yoda. This is the first of the 3 theories, okay? So bear with me here. I think this baby is not related to Yoda, but is a member of the species in which Yoda comes from, which is not named. It is not yet named. A lot of people think that he is a Lannic, but that is not correct. And this, there's a lot of lore on him here. I went straight to StarWarsFandom.com to just get you guys some literature we can look at together. But let's take a look. It says here, I wanted to see if I had this thing highlighted for you guys. Okay. So the name, it says here, the name and homeworld of Yoda's species are unknown. Members of the species were much shorter than average human, most standing below 70 centimeters or under 3 feet. the lifespans of many hundreds of years, though their average lifespan is unknown because of known members. All of the known members of this species were Jedi, who generally lived longer than ordinary members of a species. What this means here is that, like if you have a humanoid Jedi, like an Obi-Wan Kenobi, a human form Jedi species, then not all human forms get the Force. Not all of them are connected to the Force in the same way that the Jedi are. They're chosen at birth because of their inherent connections to the Force, their abilities to train and grow in the Force, much like how Anakin was selected for his ridiculously high midichlorian count, which we'll get to in a second. But all the members that we know about, which I believe is 6, I think there's 6 members of this species that we know of from books and lore and from film and TV, which is not a lot. But all 6 of them, which is, I believe it's Yoda, Yaddle, Vandar, Takare, Oteg, Minch, and then there's one that's not named. It's like a picture, a statue of an unnamed Jedi. But all the members of this race that are identified were all not just Force sensitive, but incredibly Force sensitive. And they were all light side users pretty much only. One of them, if I'm not mistaken, I think it was Vandar Takare was the one that was said to be a little bit more aggressive. Most all of the other species of this were very calm and collected. One of them was a little bit more rambunctious, but still a light side user only. And that's very rare. With all the other species, you see like one that's good, one that's bad, some that aren't very strong in the Force, some that are. All of these guys are like really legit Force users, and all of them are really powerfully light side leaning. So I think that if this is a Yoda species, the reason why the client, Werner Herzog's character, and Dr. I forgot what the name is, Pershing, which I'll also talk about in a second, want him dead. Dr. Pershing wants him alive, but Werner Herzog wants him dead. The reason for this is because they still work for the fallen empire, and they are trying to make sure that the empire is able to rise again from the ashes, or they are able to maintain control of the assets they still have in play, perhaps even on a shattered Mandalore. Politically shattered Mandalore. So I wanted to point this out. The species resembles the Lannick species. You guys may recognize, let me see if I have this guy, Even Peel. You guys probably remember him from the Clone Wars and from Attack of the Clones and from the Phantom Menace. He perished in the Clone Wars animated series, which is canon, by the way. But this is not the same species or creature as Yoda, as these guys are a little bit more humanoid, not just because of their pale skin, but they have 5 fingers. They are more humanoid than they are looking like the Yoda species. Even though they have the pointed ears, they are shorter, but these guys end up somewhere close to 1.22 meters, closer to 3.5 to 4 feet, usually for their species, sometimes 5. These guys are a little bit taller, whereas Yoda species is rarely ever noted to be even 3 feet tall. Typically around 2 feet, where Yoda is 2'2". So that's pretty, those are the primary differences other than skin color, not even mentioning that. But it is clearly a difference. So they are not the same. In fact, the lore has recognized them as not the same. We don't know anything really about Yoda species, and that's by design. So let's go ahead and keep moving on with this. I want to show you guys this. The species resemble the Lannick species, both having short stature, large pointed ears, and in some cases a top knot of hair. Whether the species was related to the Lannick is, it says here, uncertain. It says, though Yoda was at least once mistaken for a Lannick. And noting that because I believe it was the literature that he was mentioned to be mistaken by a Lannick, points out that it was a mistake. It points out that it was not correct, that he is not a Lannick, and that is a fact. Between the two species was unlikely because Lannick were much more humanoid and appeared to have evolved from simians, meaning like 5-fingered hands and appendages, while the unknown tridactyl species, which is Yoda's species, tridactyl meaning they have Ninja Turtle hands, they got 3 fingers, that's Yoda, had features that suggested an amphibian or reptilian ancestry, which is hilarious too because George Lucas always joked about him being related to Kermit the Frog. So all known members were very wise and had extraordinary force potential. Most of them, though not all, spoke in an idiosyncratic dialect of Galactic Basic Standard, basically meaning they speak English, except they speak it in a weird backwards kind of organized way, like Yoda does. So we see here, utilizing non-standard grammar and formalized blah, 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 blah. It says members of this elusive species were rarely seen in the known galaxy. They're very, very, very rare. People don't see them. They're not walking around. And part of that reason is because their planet is almost unknown. And as far as lore goes, it is unknown. No one knows where they come from. It says, Yoda is the most famous member of his species, was the Jedi Grand Master during the time of the Galactic Republic for over 2 centuries, and one of the most powerful Jedi in the history of the Order. Master Yoda died from natural causes at the age of 900 standard years. That's a very long lifespan. Now, again, earlier it mentions it's not a good way to compare to see if all of his species live 900, because all of them are Jedi, which means that the Force helps them live longer. That's typically the way. Either they get cut down by a Sith or something, or they end up living longer because the Force keeps them alive longer. So it's unclear whether they live long because of the Force and their ridiculous connections to the Force, far above that of their fellow Jedi, or if they're living long because that's how their race operates. We believe it's because that's how their race operates, especially now that the Mandalorian points out that a baby would be 50 years of age. You know? So like that's kind of where this whole thought process is coming from too. So it says two other Jedi, Yaddle and Vandar Takare, were also powerful masters who both sat on Jedi councils on Coruscant and Dantooine respectively. Yaddle served on the Jedi Council of Coruscant alongside Yoda on the same council around in the same time period, which means we had a male and a female. So if you guys don't know who Yaddle is, let me go ahead and just pull her up. I want to see if I can. There we go. You guys remember her? So this looks just like Yoda, but high and with really long hair. And she's showing a little leg there at the bottom. So that's Yaddle. And that's, you know, a lot of people, that's going to lead me into my next theory in just a short second. But I wanted to really break this in for you guys so you guys can really grab a hold of this theory. So we're looking at this. The whole first theory, again, let me remind you guys, it's a race thing. So my first theory is called It's a Race Thing. Meaning that the baby is not actually related to Yoda, but is the same species, of which George Lucas has kept tight wraps on. So the gist of what it's saying here is that we know of Yaddle and Vanda Takare. Oteg served in the Cold War, a 5th and lesser known Jedi of his species. Jedi Knight Minch served in the Jedi Order around 700 BBY, which is before the Battle of Yavin. Although little is known about him, he proved himself quite able in the ways of the Force when he single-handedly defeated a Dark Jedi Master in combat. Showing that he has ridiculous Force abilities, which is this is consistent with what we're knowing about the species so far. We only know of 6 members of the species at all. We're not saying we know of 6 Jedi species of theirs that made it to Jedi and that became Force sensitive. Literally every single one we know of totals the number 6, and they are all Jedi. So this assumes that they are all Force sensitive. Because if you got 6 out of 6, that's 100% of the known race is not only Force sensitive, but Jedi Master level sensitive. So that's pretty good. So now we're looking at this. It says, in contrast to the other 4 masters who all had shown exceptional calmness and self-control at times, Minch had a slightly more fiery temperament and was known to have once lost his cool when subjected to Dunmok. A statue of and this is the last one here, a statue of an unknown Jedi of his species was inside the Valley of the Jedi on Ruusan. That is the last, I guess, known version or species of Yoda's species. I'll just call them the species because we don't have a name for it. And I don't want to keep saying Yoda species. So the last of that species, there was in the Valley of the Jedi in Rusan, there was a statue to the unknown Jedi in the form of the species. So that to me shows that literally every single one that we're aware of is very vastly force sensitive, and all of them lean to the light side. This is not a statue to the unknown Force user or statue to the unknown Sith. It's a statue to the unknown Jedi. All of them light side users, which makes me think. And I'll get to another point there, but let's just take a look. Why do we know so little? It's by design. George Lucas did not want anyone knowing about this race. It's supposed to be a mystery. So it says, for reasons unknown, George Lucas maintained a strict policy of keeping history, name, origin, and whereabouts of the species unknown. When asked about what Yoda's species is, Lucas had only joked, he's a frog. In the documentary, From Puppets to Pixels, he joked that Yoda is the illegitimate child of Kermit the Frog and Miss Piggy, which is hilarious because he was a puppet. And it says, prior to the creation of Yaddle in The Phantom Menace, Lucasfilm actively discouraged licensees from exploring Yoda's species. Wishing to avoid confirming that an entire species of Yoda-like individuals even necessarily existed, lines cut from Revenge of the Sith simply refer to the species as Yoda's species, meaning that they shot scenes talking about Yoda's species but without naming the species, just referring to it as Yoda's species, meaning that they intentionally did not want to disclose what Yoda's species was, even in the deleted scenes. And then they said, you know what? That's too close. Let's get rid of that. We don't even want to go there. So, and then it says Lucas's policy has resulted in certain Star Wars publications being canceled, like comics, books, that kind of stuff. A significant example was when Lucasfilm, likely at the direction of George Lucas, ordered the pulping of an entire print run of a yet-to-be-released Star Wars trading card depicting a group of unknown tridactyl species worshipping a larger-than-life statue of one of their own number, led in prayer by an individual who may have been intended to be Yoda. And again, we see that right here up at the top. Do you guys see this little image right here? I'm going to see if I can blow that up for you guys. I don't know if I can right now. So let me see if I can zoom that for you. Do you guys see that right there on the left? That's the image of a bunch of Yoda's species worshiping what looks to be like a Yoda statue, like an idol of some sort. And in that image, it looks like Yoda. It could be any of them, but it looks like Yoda using what appears to be the light side of the Force in worship towards this race of creatures. So I'm going to go ahead and reduce that image again, and then we're going to keep moving. So I don't want to beat the dead horse, but I think that it might not matter if the baby is related to Yoda specifically, or even possibly Yaddle. It doesn't have to be, but I think giving us that 50-year window, saying that the creature is 50 years old, means that it comes from a birth that happened back in approximately the Phantom Menace time, and or somewhere in that gap up till probably I'm gonna go ahead and put a stopgap at Revenge of the Sith being the latest. I think that is, because I'm not exactly sure how many years that is. I know it's close to 40 or 50 years approximately, so I'm gonna just give and take 10 years from Anakin's time as a baby. I'm sorry, on Tatooine at the pod race, from then until when Revenge of the Sith happens, and then he's slaughtering younglings. So that's probably approximately that. So many fans have speculated the unknown species is the Wills, but we know that it's not. George Lucas denied it straight out. Plus, it's not consistent with what he looks like either. But I do think that you go in, and there's so much here that we could go through. I'm not going to do that. I think this one's coming to an end, so I don't want to drag this one out too much. But let me see if I have. Let me see if I got this. Yoda's midichlorian count. This is the last piece of the straw that I want to point out here. Yoda, So given the assumption that the highest count of the Jedi should be approaching 20,000 midichlorians, with the film implying Yoda is up in that range, Anakin's full potential is stated to be twice as powerful as Palpatine's, who is portrayed as a rough equal to Yoda. Anakin is probably 36,000 to 40,000 if you're assuming a perfect double of what Palpatine's is. And so if Palpatine is approximately 20,000, then and Anakin is double that, because Anakin was literally born of the Force. So he would have an exceptionally off the charts high midichlorian count, but we know that Yoda is basically the light side equal to Palpatine. At least he was in Revenge of the Sith, very close. Palpatine got the best of him, but we can assume that Yoda is probably at a resting 20,000, pretty close to Palpatine, maybe 18,000, which is ridiculously high. And no one is really close to Yoda on the Jedi Council either. He's really high. Very few are where he is, especially given his natural Force inclination. And based on the history of what we read earlier from all the other species of his race, they are all very Force sensitive in the light side of the Force. I would assume that that's why Werner Herzog's character, the Client, in The Mandalorian episodes 1 and 2, I think we see him in 3, but all 3 episodes, wants him dead. Because Werner Herzog is wearing the Imperial emblem after the Empire has fallen. He's clearly still working with them. He's got the stormtroopers around him still employed in his payroll, and he's using the scientists to try to either experiment or come up with something. They want him back, but they're okay with him dead because they want to either silence or science the heck out of that kid. So I'm going to go out on a limb and say the first theory is that it is not necessarily related to Yoda, not necessarily related to Yaddle, but I think it is, and it works with this theory. But it could be that they've discovered another baby of Yoda's species, and the Mandalorian is going to finally answer some of the questions that George Lucas has intentionally buried for quite some time. And who better to do that than the right-hand man of George Lucas, Dave Filoni, who is now working with Jon Favreau. And George Lucas visited the set of The Mandalorian. I think this is the closest thing to the dream of George Lucas, is The Mandalorian. It's so close to the heart of the original trilogy. I think this would be the perfect place to do something like that, to give the fans something that we've been asking for a very, very long time. All right, that was very long, but that was the first theory. So I've got 2 more I'll jet through. These won't be very long. The second one plays off of everything we just learned, but Baby Yoda, here's the image of Baby Yoda if you didn't already know. Baby Yoda is the love child of Yaddle. Sorry about that. Yaddle and Yoda. So Yoda and Yaddle on the council at approximately the same time for at least a minimum of 15 years, and probably longer than that. We can safely assume that these two, although the Jedi are forbidden from having attachments, they are not forbidden from having intercourse or intimate relations. So they can have intimate relations, and they have in books and in comics. But the problem is that inherently draws on intimate connection with the other person. So emotional attachments build very, very quickly when you are intimate physically with someone of the opposite sex. So for that reason, no one on the council was permitted to have any relations of that sort. But there have been instances in the canon, the previous canon, the EU, where a Jedi of a race that is either dying out or extremely rare, going extinct or something like that, the Jedi is permitted to be on leave to serve that kind of physical duty to their species, to their race, to preserve their race, get someone pregnant, have some babies, and come back to the council completely separated from that family, because they just need to keep their species alive as a debt to their species. This would be the perfect example. If we only know of 6 of this race at all, and one of them is like a myth, then I think it's safe to assume that if they're, this answers the question. If they were the only two people alive in the galaxy, would they do it? They probably would. They wouldn't have a choice, really. It's that or your species dies out and the universe is without your species, especially if the universe in Star Wars, if the Force has chosen your species, your race to be its bastion, its counterpart, especially what we know about Palpatine and Yoda having equal opposite midichlorian levels approximately. It makes sense. The Force must be balanced. So where you have a Sith Lord that is like 20,000 midichlorians on his own, the Jedi Council has Yoda. And so, we know of species that are inherently connected to the Force. We know about the space whales. I forget what their names are. There was the dogs that were on the planet in Rebels. You guys know what I'm talking about if you guys watch Rebels. So for me, that is something that is definitely within the context of storylines, arcs, background for the Star Wars lore, that if the species is dying out, they are able to forego the ban on intimacy in order to preserve the species and then come back and cut all ties. And we know that Yoda is a master of, I guess, being without the emotion there. The only thing you really see him like break his heart for is when the younglings were killed. That was pretty much it. But who doesn't have, some love for the younglings? So, except Anakin, of course. But other than that, that's theory number 2, guys. That first, it's a race thing. It doesn't necessarily mean that they're related to Yoda or Yaddle, but it's its own thing. It's its own, we don't have a name for it, the species. And it's going to help us dig into where Yoda actually came from. We may even get to find the home planet of Yoda, which would be pretty wild. Oh my gosh, that'd be crazy. Second theory is, unlike Marvin Gaye, let's get it. Yaddle and Yoda getting pregnant. So that is theory number 2. Theory number 3 is way more fun, guys. So let's get into the real reason I'm making this video, right? So if you guys have stuck around for this is where it's getting good. Next up, we have, I want you to pay attention to this. Werner Herzog plays the client. He's the one that put the hit out on Baby Yoda. And it's an asset that he's trying to acquire and or kill. Either one's good for him, and you see the Imperial logo. He's clearly a member of the Empire, and he has Imperial guarding around him in the Stormtroopers. Stormtroopers are guarding him literally. And he has access to a great wealth of stuff. So what else do we see? His scientist bursts through the door and says, no, don't kill him. We need this thing alive. Bring this bounty back alive. And look at this emblem on his shoulder, guys. Do you see this? I'm going to go ahead and zoom this in for us so that we can see right there. Do you see that logo on his shoulder right next to my shoulder? I'm going to see if I could point this out right there. You see that? IL. Now, it doesn't actually mean IL, but IL for the sake of visual aesthetics, so you can remember it. Lowercase I, lowercase L. Remember that logo and image, because I'm about to blow your minds. All right? If you haven't already heard this theory, this is my favorite theory, and I've expanded upon what I've found out there on the internet. So, IL. This guy comes in with this really neat little suit. He's clearly the scientist, and he's trying to do experiments. He's trying to learn more about this race, and it's important to this guy that the thing not die, that the baby does not die. Bring it back alive. Do not kill it. Werner Herzog is like, yeah, screw it, kill it. We don't want that light side creature tearing up our base. This guy says, bring it back alive no matter what. Why? Why would he care? Is it just for the sake of science, or is there some big deal why this baby really matters? And you can see it again here, the logo, the IL. Here he is again, cowering for his life with the IL. The IL logo is right there on the shirt. I want to point you guys back to something. Do you guys remember an Attack of the Clones? Yes, the movie. Star Wars Episode 2, Attack of the Clones, with Jango Fett, mind you. This is where we really start to learn about Mandalorian's at all. Like, I mean, we knew about Boba Fett, but it was super mysterious. It was not quite as mysterious as Yoda's race, but it was up there. It's very, 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 very low key. And with this Attack of the Clones, this is a first look at Jango Fett. This is the origins of Boba Fett, which is fitting because the show we're talking about is The Mandalorian. It's exploring 5 years after the film where Boba Fett gets killed. He's not killed. We know from the extended universe he's survived the Sarlacc pit, but the film universe has yet to confirm that for us, whether or not they are keeping that part of the lore. But they kind of did a little bit, and that's a different video I'll get into about The Mandalorian episode 1. I'll talk about that in just a second. But as far as this, Kamino. Remember, this is the water planet where Obi-Wan goes and he discovers that there's an entire army, a big, massive army that has been amassed through cloning Jango Fett's Mandalorian DNA by the Kaminoans. These long neck guys with the crazy cool eyes. And this is also the planet and the scene where we get those memes, you know, like the visible confusion memes. When you get confused by a visible confusion meme, he's like, visible confusion? Testtube Babies. What is going on here? So in this cloning facility, they don't need a male and a female. They created all of these clones from Jango Fett's DNA. Jango Fett donated his DNA and he said, you can make all these clones you want. I want my fee to be an unaltered clone. So it's not programmed for automatic obedience. And he doesn't want it to have growth acceleration. No growth acceleration and a free will. And he's going to train it himself. He wanted a son. That's what Jango Fett did. Now, it is a clone of Jango Fett, but it's a clone with free will and the teachings of Jango Fett. So it's going to be supreme. It's going to be amazing. That's what Boba Fett is. And so now let's go ahead and take a look again at what we're seeing on this next slide. I want you guys to remember, let me just go back a couple slides so you guys can see this. Look at this logo. The logo here, IL on his shoulder, right? IL, lowercase I, lowercase L. And what do we have here? So you see the training facility where all of these clones are being prepped, armored up, geared up, trained, all of that stuff. You can see the young cadets. You can see the cadets that are ready for their armor. What do we have here? What are all of these guys wearing on their sleeves in the training facility, on the cloning facility on Kamino? They're wearing the Signet Il. Now, it's not literally, it's not English IL. It's not Earth IL. It's a symbol of some sort, but we see it. We see the letters IL. And that logo, whatever that means, it could mean Kamino the planet, but we only see that logo on Kamino. So, and we only see it with clones, which is the other interesting thing too. All of these clones wearing the Signet IL. Look at, even the younglings, they're forced to wear it. IL everywhere. And now check this out. Even in the Clone Wars animated series, we see IL is represented on the clones that are supposed to be the young clones in training. In the episode where Boba Fett sneaks aboard the ship and he's the unaltered clone, but he sneaks in with a batch that's approximately his same level of development, except for his mind is way better because he's not like 6 days old. So with IL, look at all over the place. IL. Is this a coincidence, guys? Do you think that this is a big coincidence? Or is it possible that DNA was harvested from Yoda or from Yaddle? Because, by the way, we do not know where Yaddle was during Order 66. We do not know if she died during 66. As far as I'm aware, we do not know that she died during 66. I did some research. I have not found anything. And we also do not know, we don't know if she was pregnant. This could have been her baby, or it doesn't need to be. They could have cloned Yaddle, captured her, and cloned her. They could have got the DNA off of Yoda's cloak. I believe Yoda lost his cloak when he fought Sidious. They could have captured that, gotten some hair, made a clone. They could have, they could have gotten anything from him, because they ran everybody out in haste out of Coruscant. There could have been any number of DNAs available in Coruscant, in the Jedi Temple. So yeah, it's kind of crazy, man. I think that this will be what is happening, especially given that we know through games, comics, books, history, lore, that Emperor Palpatine did clone himself. And that it's very, very likely that's what they're going to do in episode 9, which is not out yet. It comes out next month. But Star Wars episode 9, well, it's pretty strong, pretty likely that Emperor Palpatine is a clone existing in maybe a false body, secondary body, something like that, so that he could inhabit through the Force. We don't know. I could eat my words after this. Let me know in the comments if you're watching this like 6 months from now and you already know the answer. But also, I think the other big thing here is Rey. Rey is still unsettled about her parents. We don't buy the crap that they fed us in The Last Jedi. She doesn't buy it either, because when she was told by Kylo about her parents, he was connecting with her memory of her vision of her worst nightmare and fears from the dark side Force cave. It wasn't actual truth. It was her worst fears about what she imagined the truth would be. And that's what Kylo was syncing up with. He doesn't know. But that's what I think, man. And yeah. What do you guys think? This is a big toss-up, big what if, but I think this one holds the most water, because look at what the showrunners did. The showrunners put the Camino cloning facility emblem on the scientist's shoulder that requested that Baby Yoda be kept alive. And at the end of episode 3, if you haven't seen it, he shows that he was willing to go behind the client's back and pretend the baby died, yet keep it alive in a secret chamber. So he is intent that he must preserve this baby at all costs. Even at the cost of his own life, he gets between the bounty hunter and the baby. And so that's what we're seeing. That's what we're seeing here. I think either the baby's a clone, or it's actually a combination of theory number 1. It's just another one of Yoda's race that we found as an infant 50 years ago, approximately around the time of Order 66, or maybe a little before. And he needs to clone it. So either it is his clone and it's the clone he made and he's very paternal about it. He wants to, keep it alive. Or the flip is the both. It's a race thing and it's a clone. Option number 3. It is the baby of Yoda and Yaddle. It is a race thing and he needs to clone it. Or he has cloned it. Maybe this is the clone of the original baby. Dude, that'd be so wild. That'd be crazy. So let me know what you guys think down below in the comments. Which of these theories, or which combination of these theories, makes the most sense to you? I'm really excited. When I saw that logo, I was like, oh my gosh, dude. Oh my gosh, they're bringing it back. They're bringing back the cloning. And I got more hyped than I think I have ever been for Star Wars ever. I'm so pumped. So what do you guys think? I want to hear your thoughts. Let me know down below. And I hope my allergies go away, because all this eyes. I'm trying not to rub my eyes on this stinking video. So you guys, tell me what you think. This theory is keeping me up at night. Please make sure, if you want to support the channel, make sure to smash that like button, hit the subscribe button, share the video with a friend, leave a comment, because all of those things cost you nothing. They're free. And if you want to support me financially and help keep this channel growing, improving, get some new tech, get some upgrades so that I can better myself, better the channel and the content for you, click on the link down in the description of my video so you can check out all of my new Mandalorian merch at my TeePublic store. So it's right down below. Just scroll down a little bit, turn your phone vertical and scroll down below, in the bottom, and then press down, drop down. It gets on there, hit the link, boom. Now you're looking at Mandalorian merch I think you're going to really like. So, and it's the best in the parsec, and that's a fact. So that's not what I think. People tell me that. So you got to check it out. Now, I like you guys more than a friend. Stay tuned for more right here on This Stuff of Legend.